So I've been struggling for a bit, trying to get a business up off the ground. Did everything that you needed to become a limited liability company, to start my own security company, and that's been slow going. But I've also kind of stalled out a little bit. I'm not really sure what I want this channel to be about or what it is that I'm trying to say. I know that I'm really disillusioned with things. Um, and a lot of that was probably some of the anger of being let go so unexpectedly. But I've been trying to figure out what is it that I'm trying to say. What is it that I'm trying to do here with this channel? And I've been putting a lot of thought into it, and I've got a lot of different things that I've been working on, trying to put a finger on what it is that I want to do with this channel. Um, and really, I just want to be reflective. I want to talk about my real life experiences, and maybe help some people along the way. And if that's somebody that's been struggling with what they're going to do in this corporate life, or what is it that they're supposed to do in life. And it got me thinking. It's pretty interesting. I kind of was wondering. I'm looking through my notes here. I was kind of wondering, how did I get here? How did I get to this point in my life? And it made me realize that my father died when I was about 25. 25. So I was still in the midst of being a young person, whose parents, while they might be cool, you weren't looking to your parents for guidance. And my parents certainly didn't give much growing up. And so there was a lot of traveling around. I was living in Colorado. I was chasing mountain bike racing on what was the Norba circuit as a downhill racer. And I was just kind of chasing dreams. And, um, you know, my mother's voice was the voice of, you need to get a job. What are you going to do? You should go to school. And made me realize that I never really had direction. I just kind of went from one thing to another. And by the time that I was ready at about 26 to, having lived a little bit, um, my father had passed away at that point, and that's probably when I needed him the most. He and I had a really good relationship, but wasn't able to ask him. And at some point, I'll tell the stories of his funeral and some of the people that I hadn't realized, but he had helped along the way. Um, but I didn't really have direction. I had my mother who was bipolar and angry and did not like me, pushing me. And honestly, in my own, you know, in her defense, I really didn't have much motivation either. But I wasn't looking for pushing and negative talk and all that, which is what I got from my mom. I've been doing a lot of therapy lately, and one of the things that at first I rolled my eyes at when I heard it, but the more I listened to it, the more it made sense, was these little parts of us that are in all of us. Whether the parts that we use to be defensive from, alcoholic, abusive parents, these little formation periods where you learn survival mechanisms. And the more I started looking at why I got angry or why I got triggered at stuff, the more sense it made that it was these parts of me that I had never. I don't know, it's like a tripwire or a booby trap. Once you get past that and you don't need it anymore, nobody tells you should probably stop doing that. And I think a lot of us, if we react, if we're honest about it, we're reacting out of that little portion of us that helped us survive. But I look at all those little parts of me, 26-year-old parts and 18 and 13, and he was in survival. I was just in survival. And then I was looking to chase dreams, which was a good thing. I shouldn't have stopped, but I did. And that's when I started chasing education or finding a good job or finding a good paying job. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't have any direction on which ways I should go. And eventually I ran bike shops. Then I started doing sales, and eventually the internet started taking over, and internet sales were becoming a thing, and I got out of sales. And I went back to college, community college, starved to death to put myself through college just to get a computer science degree, and got into this industry. But there was all this momentum behind me of, get that, do that. And I neglected so many different parts of me. I neglected the parts of me that every once in a while would be that whisper in the back of my head. Oh boy, live in the mountains, or you should go ride. And the louder portions of my brain were the ones that say riding doesn't pay money, riding isn't going to get anywhere, riding is playing, you're not a child. And yeah, so I evolved through life, always feeling like something should be different, always feeling like there's something I felt like I'd like to be doing, but I could never put a finger on it. So I was thinking, if I could talk to my younger self, if this channel is going to be anything, it's going to be my story, where I came from, how I got here, if that's entertaining. But hopefully there's people that maybe you're checking this channel out that at certain points in their lives are at a point that I was. And when I didn't get any advice, maybe I can be just the voice of something. So if I had to break down the parts, I'd probably pick 26, 36, and 46 maybe, just because 26 is when my father died. And, I was missing that fatherly advice and guidance that I should have been getting at that point in my life, when I was really kind of, you lose the momentum of not having school, high school, things like that. And the structure goes away. And I think I found adventure for a while. And then when it was time to go to my next adventure or do something, then my father was sick. And I decided that's the beginning of, I need to get serious. So this would be more fatherly advice, to Robs of 26. I would tell him that you're allowed to feel lost. That's perfectly fine. In fact, I would probably tell him at 53 I'm still feeling lost. But that was a big thing for 26-year-old Rob. And I'd probably ask him, what is it that you think makes a man? What is it that you are trying to do as a man, and why? I'd also talk to him about how he doesn't have to carry all that guilt and all that rage. A lot of rage. That's a lot of drinking to kind of numb that rage. But I would tell him that, you don't have to carry all this alone. I would probably would have told him to go to therapy. And if not therapy, then AA or somewhere where he could get mentors, because that's really what 26-year-old Rob needed. And then I'd tell him that play and healing are almost more important than work, and that he should never not focus on playing or healing. And then if I went to 36-year-old Rob, I would probably tell him, no matter how hard you work and how hard you try to drown these things out, you're not going to get past that pain until you deal with it. I would tell him that it's okay to slow down. Going 80 hours a week wasn't healthy, and it didn't allow for other things. And I would tell him it would be okay to slow down. It's not this American dream where you're supposed to charge and throw caution to the wind and really just beat yourself up. I would tell him slow down. It's not a failure. If you slow down, take stock of what you have and where you are, and more importantly, where do you want to go? I tell him the dream. I didn't dream back then. I just worked as hard as I could to try to pay the bills. And then more recent Rob, 46-year-old Rob, I probably ask him or say to him, this role that you have as a security person in this industry, you are something without that. You have something to offer. I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I always thought that I wasn't good enough. And there was a lot of not allowing my true self to be coming out because I didn't want to seem weak. And I came to the security industry late, so I didn't have a lot of that inherent knowledge that a lot of these kids that had been doing it for 20, 30 years had. And I'd tell them to let go of performing, acting. God, I did a lot of that. Acted like everything was okay. Acted like I didn't care. Acted like, there was a lot of acting. There was a lot of being what I thought I was supposed to be to people. And then I probably talked to 46-year-old Rob about intentional living and living with intention and living with integrity and making your life mean something more than just work. And that's all right. So, those would be the things that I would say to him. Hopefully that resonates with some of you. But mostly I'm just trying to work through all this in my head. Like I said, I've been struggling with where I'm going with this and who wants to hear these things. And what you're seeing is that end result as I dig deeper and work on journaling and work on asking myself these questions and start posing the how did I get here and where am I going? So, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.